On the foggy evening of October 12, 1998, Officer Maria Santos, a dedicated 29-year-old patrol officer with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department in California, disappeared without a trace during what should have been a routine traffic patrol along the remote stretch of Highway 74 that winds through the mountainous terrain between Hemet and Palm Desert. Maria had been with the department for 6 years, earning a reputation as one of the most thorough and community-minded officers in the county. Known for her fluency in both English and Spanish, her volunteer work with local youth programs, and her exceptional ability to de-escalate tense situations through patience and understanding rather than force. That evening, she was conducting her usual patrol in Unit 47, a well-maintained Ford Crown Victoria police interceptor equipped with the latest communication technology, GPS tracking, and emergency equipment. Following her standard route that took her through rural areas where drug trafficking and illegal border crossings were persistent concerns for law enforcement. According to dispatch records, Maria's last radio check-in occurred at 9:47 p.m., when she reported her location as mile marker 23 on Highway 74, approximately 15 miles from the nearest town, and indicated that she was conducting a routine traffic stop on a vehicle with expired registration plates. Her voice was calm and professional, showing no signs of distress or concern, and she followed standard protocol by providing the license plate number and requesting a background check on the registered owner. However, when dispatch attempted to contact Maria for her scheduled 10:15 p.m. check-in, her radio remained silent, and repeated attempts to reach her throughout the night yielded no response. The GPS tracking system in her patrol car showed that the vehicle had stopped transmitting location data at 9:52 p.m., just 5 minutes after her last communication, in an area known for poor cellular reception and frequent electronic interference from nearby military installations. When Maria failed to return to the station at the end of her shift and didn't answer her personal cell phone, Sergeant David Rodriguez initiated an immediate search operation, fearing that she might have been injured in an accident or attacked during what had initially appeared to be a routine traffic stop. Before continuing this story, tell us in the comments what country and city you're listening to this story from. The initial search operation, coordinated by Captain Robert Hayes of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, mobilized every available resource in the county, including helicopter units equipped with thermal imaging cameras, K-9 teams trained in search and rescue operations, and dozens of patrol officers who volunteered to work overtime to help find their missing colleague. The search began at mile marker 23, where Maria's last transmission had originated, with teams methodically combing through the rugged terrain on both sides of the highway, searching for any sign of Maria, her patrol car, or evidence of what might have happened during those crucial 5 minutes when her GPS signal went dark. The mountainous landscape of the San Bernardino National Forest presented significant challenges for the search teams, with steep ravines, dense vegetation, and numerous dirt roads and hiking trails that could potentially hide a vehicle or provide escape routes for anyone who might have harmed Maria. After 3 days of intensive searching, investigators found Maria's patrol car approximately 2 miles from her last known location, hidden behind a cluster of large boulders in a wash that was completely invisible from the highway and accessible only by a narrow dirt road that showed recent tire tracks. The Crown Victoria was in perfect mechanical condition with no signs of accident damage, but the discovery raised more questions than it answered. The car had been carefully positioned to avoid detection, the keys were missing, and all of Maria's personal equipment, including her service weapon, radio, and citation book, had been removed from the vehicle. More disturbing still, the car's interior had been thoroughly cleaned with industrial-strength chemicals, eliminating any potential DNA evidence or fingerprints that might have indicated who had been in the vehicle or what had happened to Maria. The only items left in the car were her Kevlar vest, which had been neatly folded and placed on the passenger seat, and her citation pad, which contained the partial license plate number she had radioed in during her final transmission. This discovery transformed the case from a potential accident or medical emergency into a criminal investigation, with the FBI joining the effort due to the federal implications of an attack on a law enforcement officer and the possibility that Maria's disappearance was connected to organized criminal activity in the region. 4 years passed without any significant breaks in the case, during which time Maria's disappearance became one of the most troubling unsolved mysteries in Riverside County law enforcement history, haunting her colleagues, family, and the community she had served with such dedication. Maria's parents, Carlos and Elena Santos, immigrants from Mexico who had worked tirelessly to provide their daughter with educational opportunities and supported her dream of becoming a police officer, maintained a vigil at their modest home in Riverside, keeping Maria's bedroom exactly as she had left it and organizing annual memorial services at the local Catholic church, where she had been an active volunteer. Her fellow officers at the Riverside County Sheriff's Department established the Maria Santos Memorial Fund to support families of law enforcement officers killed or missing in the line of duty, while continuing to investigate leads and follow up on tips that came in from across the country. Detective James Morrison, who had been assigned as the lead investigator on the case, became personally obsessed with finding Maria, spending his own time and resources to pursue every possible lead, interview potential witnesses, and explore theories about what might have happened to her on that foggy October evening. The case attracted attention from national media outlets, crime documentaries, and amateur investigators who were fascinated by the mysterious circumstances of Maria's disappearance and the lack of any physical evidence despite extensive searches of the area. In September 2002, exactly 4 years after Maria's disappearance, the case took a dramatic turn when a group of college students from UC Riverside, who were conducting a geology field study in the San Bernardino National Forest, made a discovery that would finally provide answers to some of the questions that had plagued investigators for years. While examining rock formations in a remote canyon approximately 8 miles from where Maria's patrol car had been found, the students discovered what appeared to be a makeshift camp hidden in a cave system that had been carved out of the mountainside decades earlier by miners looking for gold and silver deposits. The cave contained sleeping bags, camping equipment, and most significantly, a collection of personal items that included Maria's service weapon, badge, radio, and other equipment that had been missing from her patrol car, along with detailed journals and photographs that revealed the disturbing truth about what had happened to the dedicated officer. The contents of the cave painted a horrifying picture of Maria's final weeks of life, revealing that she had been held captive by a survivalist group that had been operating in the remote wilderness areas of the San Bernardino National Forest for over a decade, living completely off the grid and supporting themselves through drug trafficking, weapons smuggling, and periodic raids on isolated homes and businesses. The journals found in the cave, written in Maria's distinctive handwriting, documented her 23 days of captivity, during which she had been forced to provide information about police patrol routes, communication procedures, and planned law enforcement operations in the region. The entries revealed that Maria had been tortured both physically and psychologically by her captors, who had threatened to kill her family if she did not cooperate with their demands for information about police activities. Despite the extreme duress she was under, Maria had managed to maintain detailed records of her captors' activities, their physical descriptions, their weapons, and their plans for future criminal activities, turning her journal into a comprehensive intelligence report that would later prove invaluable to law enforcement agencies. The photographs found in the cave showed Maria in various stages of physical deterioration, documenting the abuse she had suffered at the hands of her captors, but also revealing her incredible strength and determination to survive and gather evidence against the people who had taken her. The journal entries became increasingly desperate as days passed, with Maria writing about her growing fear that her captors were planning to kill her once they had extracted all the information they needed from her knowledge of police procedures and patrol schedules. The final entry in the journal, dated November 4, 1998, exactly 23 days after her disappearance, described hearing her captors discussing plans to move their operation to a different location and eliminate her as a potential witness to their crimes. The cave also contained evidence of a struggle, with blood stains on the cave walls and floor, spent ammunition casings, and signs that Maria had fought desperately for her life before being overpowered by her captors. However, despite the extensive evidence of violence, Maria's body was not found in the cave, leading investigators to believe that her captors had disposed of her remains elsewhere in the vast wilderness of the San Bernardino National Forest. The discovery of Maria's personal effects and journal led to the most intensive manhunt in Southern California history, with federal agents, state police, and local law enforcement agencies coordinating efforts to identify and apprehend the members of the survivalist group responsible for Maria's kidnapping and murder. The detailed descriptions Maria had provided in her journal, combined with forensic evidence recovered from the cave, allowed investigators to develop composite sketches of her captors and identify several suspects who had been living in the remote wilderness areas of the San Bernardino National Forest for years. The investigation revealed that the group was led by Raymond Tucker, a 47-year-old former military explosives expert who had been dishonorably discharged from the Army in 1985 and had become increasingly paranoid and anti-government in his beliefs, eventually establishing a survivalist compound in the mountains, where he recruited other disaffected individuals to join his criminal organization. Tucker and his followers had been responsible for a series of unsolved crimes throughout Southern California, including armed robberies, drug trafficking operations, and at least 3 other disappearances of law enforcement officers and civilians who had stumbled upon their activities in the wilderness. The manhunt for Tucker and his group lasted for 3 months, with search teams using helicopters, tracking dogs, and military-grade surveillance equipment to scour the mountainous terrain for any sign of the fugitives. The pursuit came to a violent end in February 2003, when federal agents located the group's new hideout in a remote area of the Angeles National Forest, leading to a 4-hour gun battle that resulted in the deaths of Tucker and 2 of his followers, while 3 other members of the group were captured alive. During the search of the group's final hideout, investigators discovered additional evidence of their crimes, including weapons, drugs, and personal effects belonging to several missing persons from across Southern California, confirming that Maria Santos had been just one of many victims of this dangerous criminal organization. The surviving members of the group were charged with multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and racketeering, and all 3 were eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, despite intensive questioning and searches of multiple locations, the exact location of Maria's remains was never determined, leaving her family without the closure they desperately sought. The trial of the surviving members of Raymond Tucker's survivalist group became a landmark case in federal law enforcement, revealing the extent of the criminal organization's activities and the sophisticated methods they had used to evade detection for over a decade, while operating in some of the most remote and inaccessible areas of Southern California. The prosecution, led by U.S. Attorney Patricia Williams, presented overwhelming evidence of the group's crimes, including Maria's journal entries, forensic evidence from multiple crime scenes, and testimony from survivors of other attacks who had managed to escape from the group's various hideouts over the years. The defendants' attempts to claim that their actions were justified by their anti-government beliefs and their right to live free from government interference were quickly dismissed by the court, which found that their criminal activities had nothing to do with political beliefs and everything to do with greed, violence, and a complete disregard for human life. The trial also revealed the sophisticated surveillance and communication network that Tucker had established to monitor law enforcement activities in the region, including the use of police scanners, hidden cameras, and informants who provided information about patrol schedules and planned operations. This intelligence network had allowed the group to avoid detection for years, while continuing to commit crimes throughout Southern California, and had directly contributed to Maria's capture when she had unknowingly driven into an area where the group had set up an ambush specifically designed to target law enforcement officers. The testimony of the surviving group members, given in exchange for slightly reduced sentences, provided investigators with detailed information about the group's criminal activities and confirmed that Maria had been tortured and killed because of her refusal to provide information that would have compromised the safety of her fellow officers and the communities she had sworn to protect. The conviction of Tucker's followers provided some measure of justice for Maria's family and colleagues, but the knowledge that she had died defending her principles and protecting others only added to the tragedy of her loss. The resolution of Maria Santos's case had profound implications for law enforcement training, wilderness safety protocols, and the protection of officers working in remote areas where backup might be hours away and communication systems could be unreliable. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department implemented new safety procedures requiring officers on solo patrols in remote areas to check in more frequently, carry additional communication devices, and follow specific protocols when conducting traffic stops or investigating suspicious activities in wilderness locations. The California Peace Officers Association used Maria's case as the foundation for new training programs that taught officers how to recognize and respond to threats from organized criminal groups operating in remote areas, while also emphasizing the importance of maintaining detailed records and leaving evidence trails that could assist investigators if an officer was killed or captured. Maria's journal, which had provided crucial evidence in the prosecution of her killers, became a teaching tool for law enforcement academies across the country, demonstrating how an officer's dedication to duty and attention to detail could help solve their own case and bring their killers to justice even from beyond the grave. The Maria Santos Memorial Training Center, established with funds raised by law enforcement agencies across California, provided specialized training for officers working in remote and high-risk areas, teaching survival skills, resistance to interrogation techniques, and methods for gathering intelligence while under duress. The center also served as a research facility for studying the tactics and behaviors of criminal organizations that target law enforcement officers, helping to develop countermeasures and protective strategies that could prevent future tragedies. Maria's story became an inspiration for law enforcement officers across the country, demonstrating that even in the face of torture and certain death, an officer's commitment to protecting others and upholding the law could continue to serve justice long after their ultimate sacrifice. The annual Maria Santos Memorial Run, organized by police departments throughout Southern California, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for law enforcement families and kept her memory alive in the communities she had served with such dedication. The search for Maria's remains continued for years after the conviction of her killers, with her family, former colleagues, and volunteer search teams conducting periodic expeditions into the San Bernardino National Forest in hopes of finally bringing her home for a proper burial. The terrain where the survivalist group had operated covered hundreds of square miles of some of the most rugged and inaccessible wilderness in Southern California, with countless caves, ravines, and hidden locations where a body could be concealed indefinitely. Despite the use of ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, and volunteer search teams that included experienced mountaineers and wilderness experts, Maria's remains were never located, forcing her family to hold a memorial service without the closure of a traditional burial. The investigation into the survivalist group's activities continued to yield new information about their criminal network, with law enforcement agencies across the western United States discovering evidence of their involvement in dozens of unsolved crimes dating back to the early 1990s. The group's sophisticated operations had included drug manufacturing facilities, weapons caches, and communication networks that had allowed them to coordinate criminal activities across multiple states while remaining completely hidden from law enforcement detection. The dismantling of Tucker's organization led to the solution of numerous cold cases and provided closure for families who had been searching for missing loved ones for years, demonstrating the far-reaching impact of Maria's sacrifice and the importance of the intelligence she had gathered during her captivity. The case also highlighted the challenges faced by law enforcement agencies in monitoring and investigating criminal activities in remote wilderness areas, leading to increased cooperation between federal, state, and local agencies in sharing intelligence and resources for operations in difficult terrain. Maria's legacy continued to influence law enforcement practices long after her death, with her name becoming synonymous with courage, dedication, and the ultimate sacrifice that peace officers make to protect their communities from those who would do them harm. In the years following the resolution of Maria Santos's case, her story became a powerful symbol of law enforcement courage and sacrifice, inspiring new generations of police officers and serving as a reminder of the dangers faced by those who choose to serve and protect their communities. The Maria Santos Foundation, established by her family and fellow officers, expanded beyond its original mission of supporting law enforcement families to become a leading advocate for officer safety, wilderness crime prevention, and the families of missing persons. The foundation worked with technology companies to develop improved communication systems for officers working in remote areas, funded research into criminal organizations that target law enforcement, and provided scholarships for the children of fallen officers who wanted to pursue careers in law enforcement or public safety. Maria's story was featured in numerous documentaries, books, and television programs that examined the challenges faced by law enforcement officers in remote areas and the sophisticated criminal networks that operate in America's wilderness regions. Her case became a standard study in police academies and criminal justice programs, demonstrating the importance of officer safety protocols, the value of detailed record-keeping, and the devastating impact that organized criminal groups can have on law enforcement and the communities they serve. The remote areas of the San Bernardino National Forest, where Maria had been held captive, were eventually designated as a memorial wilderness area, with improved ranger patrols and emergency communication systems to protect future visitors and prevent criminal organizations from using these beautiful but dangerous areas as bases for their illegal activities. Maria's parents, Carlos and Elena Santos, became advocates for law enforcement families and missing persons cases, working with legislators to improve support services for families dealing with the loss of loved ones in the line of duty. Their tireless efforts to honor their daughter's memory and help other families facing similar tragedies demonstrated the same courage and dedication that had made Maria such an exceptional officer and inspired countless others to continue her work of protecting and serving their communities. Today, more than 2 decades after Officer Maria Santos disappeared on that foggy October evening in 1998, her legacy continues to protect and inspire law enforcement officers across the United States through the training programs, safety protocols, and memorial institutions established in her honor. The Maria Santos Memorial Training Center has trained thousands of officers in wilderness safety, survival techniques, and counter-surveillance methods, helping to prevent similar tragedies and ensuring that Maria's sacrifice continues to save lives long after her death. The advanced communication systems and safety protocols developed in response to her case have been adopted by law enforcement agencies across the country, reducing the vulnerability of officers working in remote areas and improving the chances of successful rescue operations when officers are in distress. The annual Maria Santos Memorial Conference brings together law enforcement professionals, wilderness experts, and victim advocates to share knowledge, develop new safety strategies, and honor the memory of officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their communities. Maria's journal, which had provided crucial evidence in solving her own case, remains a powerful reminder of the importance of thorough documentation and the potential for victims to contribute to their own justice even in the most desperate circumstances. Her story continues to be told in police academies, community colleges, and high schools, inspiring young people to consider careers in law enforcement and public safety, while teaching them about the courage and dedication required to protect others. The survivalist group that had terrorized Southern California for over a decade was completely dismantled as a result of Maria's courage and sacrifice, with their criminal network exposed and their ability to harm others permanently destroyed. The remote wilderness areas where she had been held captive now serve as a protected memorial, with improved safety measures and regular patrols, ensuring that these beautiful natural spaces can be enjoyed by families and outdoor enthusiasts without fear of criminal activity. Maria Santos's name is engraved on law enforcement memorials across California and the United States, ensuring that her service and sacrifice will never be forgotten by the communities she died protecting. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of unimaginable cruelty and certain death, the courage and dedication of a single officer can continue to protect and serve long after their ultimate sacrifice, inspiring others to carry on the vital work of keeping our communities safe from those who would do them harm.